Welcome to AccountKit. Today we are going to take a look at your ATO Lodgement Statistics dashboard. From the first page, or your dashboard as you log into AccountKit, please head up to the top right dashboard options and ensure that your ATO Lodgement Statistics option is switched on. We then scroll down to our ATO Lodgement Statistics widget, and your data will show empty in here until you have imported information into the system. Over on the right hand side on the widget, we have three dots in the corner. Click on that element and select Manage ATO Imports. From within this screen, as we say, your data will be empty for the first time using this. However, we can very quickly import a new file from the ATO. We can either import our ATO lodgement list or lodgement due dates. By selecting one of these and then selecting the period that you're importing the data for, you can go ahead and select your file that you've downloaded from the ATO portal and bring it into the system. Note that if you require guidance on which specific reports beyond the description provided here you require from the ATO, you can find this information in our Help Center. Once you have imported the data, it will come in looking similar to what's on screen here, with a few exceptions and items in our ignore list over on the right hand side. Let's work through some of these exceptions. Click on Exceptions over on the top right, and this will open up our checklist of options to review and ensure that information is correct on the client's page. Our first exception is the TFN is in the ATO list, but AccountKit doesn't have one represented. In which case, all we need to do is ensure that the TFN and client listed in our ATO list matches a given client within your AccountKit platform. You can search for that client or simply select them from the drop-down list. Next, our exception here relating to client authorized in AccountKit but not in the ATO list. This suggests that the client is authorized for a tax return via the Prepare Tax field in XPM and by extension the Tax Return field authority inside AccountKit, but the ATO doesn't believe we require a tax return for this client. In which case, we can simply remove the authority from this screen here, and it will remove the ATO income tax authorization, and it'll also remove the Prepare Tax field in XPM, or untick the checkbox. If we do believe that a tax return needs to be completed for this client, then we need to go to our ATO portal and ensure that the client is registered correctly. Next, we move down to client is matched with the ATO, but not authorized in AccountKit. This generally relates to where the ATO believes a tax return is still necessary. However, you may have marked the client as not needing a tax return in either AccountKit or XPM. In which case the list below gives you your options that are coming up with this conflict, and we can simply select the tick box over on the right hand side and update the authorization to say yes, a tax return is required for, in this case, Mia Seaton. If we do believe that a tax return is not necessary and the ATO data is incorrect, we head to our ATO portal and we ensure that they are aware that there's no further return required. Our next option down is client is matched with the ATO, but they are archived in your system, either in XPM or AccountKit. This one is pretty straightforward. Should the client be archived, and if not, you can restore the client directly from this window. Finally, non-matching ATO client types. This is where your business types do not match to the representative business type with the ATO. For example, you may have unit trust allocated in XPM, however, in AccountKit it's set to other or a different type. To change your type allocations, please review the practice settings video, also in these onboarding tutorials. Finally, you'll see an option down the bottom which is not an exception, but it is your ability to ignore certain TFNs for certain clients. And this option can be selected in the various other screens by selecting our little reverse arrow here. What this does for you is it allows you to add a client to an ignore list until such time that a tax return will be due for them, or until such time that they need to be considered. A good example may be a client who has registered a business in September of the current financial year. You've ticked them to require tax returns, which is rightfully so. However, the ATO does not deem a tax return necessary until 1 July the following year, in which case you can set them to an ignore list and then make a decision around the date that that client will be ignored until 30 June. Once you have worked through your exceptions and your ignore list, you can come back to your dashboard and your relevant data will be updated in your statistics. And we recommend doing an import of at least once a month and working through any exceptions you may have. You'll find that once you've worked through your initial exceptions, this will reduce down to 1 or 2 exceptions each month, if that. What you can also do with this data is by selecting any number in the table below, but primarily the total, it will open up a lodgement statistics report page, in which case you can slice your ATO reporting data a number of different ways, from things like the ATO client type, the status of the lodgement, related partner or manager reports that you'd like to generate from the system, and once you've applied your filter, you can then export the records as required out to Excel. This makes reviewing and tracking your lodgements that much easier by being able to do it all through the one platform. I hope this helps.